Man, I have been waiting. I have been waiting for this day when we get to set up and do this latest edition of Roger Dykes Just Saying. What's happened to you, Roger? Honestly, you look like the camera is good for you. I mean, you got this presence now, this star quality. A lot of people don't have that. You've got it.
More importantly, I got my microphone on.
Oh, well, you're talking about the last show we did. And I want to tell you that I have done this sort of work with all types of people, and literally everybody has that happen to them every now and then. You know? The thing is, though, usually you're not working with people so cheap, there's not an engineer always standing by.
No, but you at least have a director standing by.
Oh, boy, do I ever.
There you go.
I'll tell you, I was told to get all ready. Get all ready. We're fixing to shoot.
Right. Get coiffed. I got coiffed.
You do. Hey, Roger.
Yes, sir.
Notice anything different?
Yes, sir. There is a deer sticking through your flag.
Once again, our backdrop continues to be a very entertaining place.
My first question, though, is the back half of the deer on the other side?
No.
Oh, okay.
But the entertainment continues just the same. Roger,
I see. Okay.
You may not realize it because
I
honestly,
probably don't.
One of the few things that you are not often excelling at is being an outdoorsman.
And that's true.
A lot of outdoorsmen would know instantly what this little fella is.
Dead.
This is
and stuffed.
A North American special variety, larger than normal, jackalope.
Great.
Great. That's all you got to say? We bring a jackalope here in the studio and mount it on the wall on our newly acquired backdrop. And you just say, great. Really?
Well, I wondered what the jackalope thought about it. I mean, I don't think he enjoyed the trip at all.
I want to tell you, he has not had a viable thought in a lot of years. This jackalope has a history, though.
Oh, what is the history,
well,
sir?
We don't have time for all of that.
Oh, okay.
Do we? Huh?
Well, I was excited to hear.
Oh, man. I inherited this jackalope. You know, a lot of people will talk about the much maligned mounted jackalopes that appear quite often, particularly here in West Texas.
Okay.
And the fact that it's jackalope means it's half jackrabbit, half antelope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that brings an interesting picture to the mind. Yeah. Anyway, I've got one. I've got one mounted.
Obviously.
That I have this favorite room in my home. We call it lovingly. Since the first day we moved in, I said, this is my man cave. Man cave. That's what you hear about those, but you don't actually meet somebody who's got one.
That's true. I think you may be the first I've met.
But when you live in a 4-bedroom home and both of your kids get their master's degrees and launch, they're like, then you have room for a man cave.
Oh.
And the man cave becomes real. And one of the places that a jackalope is perfectly at home is in a man cave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a man cave, and I have a 2-bedroom. I guess that's probably why I don't have one.
I'm surprised, though, because you got lots of stuff. You got your Roy Rogers collection.
Well, that's true. Now, I do have something similar to what you have, though, but it's in my refrigerator.
Oh, wait a minute. Do we really need to hear this here?
Well, it kind of fits with the story.
Okay. All right. The man cave item that sits in your refrigerator. Don't drive us crazy here. Tell us this.
Similar to yours.
Oh Lord.
It's a cantaloupe. It's a cantaloupe. It's a kind of white and orange in the middle, and you eat it.
This is nothing like a cantaloupe, Roger.
Well,
you're missing the whole point.
No, I'm not. A jackalope and a cantaloupe sound a lot alike.
Do the podcast with Roger Dykes, they said. He's fun, they said. He thinks cantaloupes and jackalopes are. Oh, I see where that could be. Yeah, okay.
I think they're related.
Roger, you are such a good friend. I'm glad we're getting to do this podcast, and we need to kick it off. You know, one could listen to the beginning of this podcast and think they don't have anything to talk about. I'm just saying, right. When you have this type of thing appearing on your set, you need to talk about it.
Absolutely.
You can't let a jackalope go unnoticed.
I've never have let one go unnoticed.
Oh, I love you, little brother. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, the podcast is Roger Dykes Just Saying. On set on today's show is an actual jackalope head. Okay, that was just kind of a special intro for the show. That, yeah, want to make sure I'm earning my big bucks here.
I'm wondering if next week we have the back half of the jackalope on the show. Do you have the back half, or do you just have the front half?
No, I don't have the back half.
Oh, okay.
I actually inherited this from my father-in-law.
Okay.
Who was the type to have this sort of thing.
Right.
And after he passed and we were at his home, somebody said, "You want that?" I said, "Do I want that? Are you kidding? Who's got one of those?" And I knew someday I'd be doing a show on YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, you can't put up a Texas flag without a jackalope.
Right. Absolutely. I've thought that many years.
Okay.
In fact, I always thought that should be perhaps the state animal.
I think we should start the show.
Whatever you say, sir. You're in charge. I just work here.
Oh, darn. I thought my new director over here was in charge, but she told me she was.
Well,
she told me that about 36 years ago at the altar.
I bet she did.
She said,
you're just now,
"Okay, now I'm in charge." And it's been like that ever since. Yeah.
And you're now beginning to understand what that means.
Oh, Lord. We need a cutaway camera. You know what that is? A cutaway camera?
No, I don't guess I did.
That's,
where we can turn it and...
Well, you got a headshot right here with us. And
absolutely.
The cutaway camera can be to anything you want to put it on. So if you're talking about something that's in the room, you can go to a close-up shot of that. You know, that's the thing about listeners to this podcast. They learn so much. We don't charge for that.
Right.
I just want to point that out.
It's almost like getting a master's degree.
You will not be billed for this information.
Right. And it's the equivalent of a master's degree in podcasting.
Roger. Let's kick off the show, my dear brother.
Okay, whatever you think.
Hello, I'm Michael Shawn, and welcome to Roger Dykes Just Sayin. Roger Dykes is a teacher and counselor with a master's degree in family counseling from Texas Tech University. He is the owner of UV Blake Records and has written a book titled Non-Persons Rolling in a Normal World. And there's a few more things. Roger was born with cerebral palsy. Now a quadriplegic, he has been confined most of his life to a wheelchair. And for a while, even enjoying a career as a stand-up or sit-down comedian and after-dinner speaker. Disabled? Yes, but you forget about that pretty quickly because Roger thrives. So here is Roger Dykes.
Good afternoon, Michael. It's good to be here with you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. You want to try one more time?
Oh, I hope our listeners can have as much fun as we do.
Yeah.
There is a serious nature, though, to this podcast.
Oh.
I know. That's what I love about you, man. First of all, a piece of business we should cover with everyone. And that is the podcast is chosen to make a big change, and that is turn into a YouTube channel. Roger Dykes YouTube channel. That's ROGERDYKES. Someday we'll learn how to use our character generations, and that will come up on the screen. Won't that be neat?
Wow.
We have new software and a very patient out-of-town engineer that is teaching us to use it. But I digress. Anyway, we are basically flipping the program over from a podcast show that it has been for quite some time. And we want to make sure all of our listeners find us on YouTube, which is easy. You just search for Roger Dykes and boom, there we are. But the show will be basically a YouTube show from now on. And so that is changing even as we speak. Probably by the time people are hearing this particular show, it will have switched over completely. So we just want everyone to know that and follow us, please. Better than that, subscribe now. If you had subscribed in the past on YouTube, you don't have to do it again. But if you subscribe to the podcast, now, if you would, please subscribe again on the YouTube channel. And you folks have no idea how much that helps, but it does. It helps us stay in place. And Roger, you've been living your life. It's been about 3 weeks since we talked last, and you have so many plates up in the air. Folks, if you haven't been listening to this show for a while, I just want you to know that Roger, you may not realize it as you're looking at here, but he is what they call a quadriplegic, which means he has very little to any use of his arms and hands. And the same thing goes for his legs. He's in that wheelchair for a reason, and he can get around his home a little bit.
Basically, I'm only good from my neck up. Okay. What you see on the screen is what really does work.
I've been called dead from the neck up. So, that's a good thing.
That's the only part that really works.
Well, what is it? Archie Bunker used to say, meathead.
Right.
From the neck up.
Right. Well, they told me I was only going to be good from the. Actually, the doctor specifically said, whatever he does, he'll do it from his ears up. But now that's even shortchanging some more of my body. So
well, yeah, because
not much.
Most people in your condition aren't able to talk or are not able to talk well or clearly.
Right.
at all.
That's true.
And
Right.
you're different. Cerebral palsy usually takes that, and it didn't
Yeah.
with you.
And we don't know why, other than God just let that not happen, because I should have. The involvement that I have physically, it is almost impossible to imagine having the brain damage that affected everything else to the degree that it did to leave my speech intact. So the doctors were amazed.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
I'm
Roger.
sure there is.
Yeah. The thing, though, is you are special in that regard. Now, I would just like to point something out. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say now that you said, I wanted to make clear enunciation. That was special and not spastic, although spastic would be accurate.
Roger, I would just like to point this out, and that is that makes you, and you know this, you're aware of what I'm about to say, a very special person, because you live a lifestyle that is completely different from what we could refer to here as normal people. And that being said, you are very special because there's government programs, there's a whole world that you've written a book about. There is all of these things, this special group of people that do not communicate well, but yet have a whole list of needs for to live their life. And you are one of the few people that not only understand it from top to bottom, because you've been this way since birth, not only understand it from top to bottom, but have experienced all those things and can readily communicate about it. And so they, instead of decisions made by well-meaning people, politicians or whatever, well-meaning people about, well, what we believe he needs now, or apparently he needs so-and-so, we need to help him get so-and-so. Baloney. They've got someone right here in Roger Dykes that can tell them exactly, okay, this is what it's like. Okay, this is what happens. This is what happens when I go to a restaurant. This is what happens when I try to do business in an average department store, or all of the things, just getting to church on Sunday, that people kind of think are simple, just going down there, are not simple. They're not simple at all. And it takes special planning and specially designed, whether it's equipment or what. There's nothing normal about you except for the fact that you are a talking, breathing, intelligent man with a master's degree at Texas Tech University. And you have done all that. Nobody gave you anything where that's all concerned. They help you get your education paid for, but no, Roger, you did it. You did it yourself.
Yes.
In that respect, you're a regular guy, you know. But when you go past that, there is nothing regular about you.
That is true, and there never has been. From as early as I can remember. Something simple. Well, I'll give you an example. Something simple that most children back when in the 50s had, early 50s. And I don't know if they still make them or not. I suppose
you're not talking about a Red Ryder BB gun, are you?
I couldn't have.
I had one of those, and when I was looking for a prop for my set, I saw the Red Ryder BB gun in the original box. And it's really a cool box. And I thought, well, I could put my BB gun in there, but I didn't. Well, I'm sorry. I interrupted you, didn't I?
That's okay. If I'd had a BB gun, I would have shot myself in the foot or somebody else in the foot. You would not want me with a loaded gun of any kind. But what I started to say was when I was a young child, there were puzzles, cardboard puzzles. They were real I guess you got them at TG&Y. I don't know, maybe they had 6 or 8 pieces in it. Well, it was you dump the pieces out and then you put the pieces back in the puzzle frames.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except for me, I couldn't do it that way. I could put the pieces in the puzzle. I knew where they went. But my problem was when you started to put them in the puzzle frame would slide. And I couldn't hold the puzzle frame like you would have held it with one hand and put the pieces in with the other.
This was before Velcro.
Well, yes, it was before Velcro. But my dad, with each puzzle that I had, built a wooden frame to set it in so that it wouldn't slide.
There's an answer. My
point being that I never had anything off the rack.
Yeah.
Everything I had to be customized, even down to something as simple as a cardboard puzzle.
Yeah.
So everything in my world and still today, it hasn't changed. I buy things in the store and we have to bring them home and figure out how we can change it up just enough where I can use it.
So would it be possible to say or suggest here that, and this is one of hundreds of things that you can just say because they're true, but there is a market for cerebral palsy young people to build puzzle kits that would be similar to that would be just for them. Now, it's not $1 million idea, but it would certainly be a great item to have on a shelf where people are looking desperately to find a gift for a cerebral palsy child. And wouldn't that be a good idea?
Well, it quite possibly could be. There's a number of things that I have friends with disabled children or related to people with disabled children, and I have made suggestions of things for them to buy as well as things for them not to buy.
Yeah.
Because some things are not, you can't customize it enough to make it work. But it looks good. They see it on TV and they think, my grandchild would really get a kick out of that. And no doubt they would if they could use it.
Yeah.
But when they get it out of the box, they can't hold it, they can't move it, they can't do what they have to do.
Then it's just a source of frustration.
Right. And
who would think of that, though, except for someone like you who can not only think of it, but then communicate it?
Well, and I had one person who has a cerebral palsy individual in their family, and they were disappointed because they had bought this child, their grandchild, a particular kind of car, a little car, and it ran on batteries or whatever. And it would get to a certain point and it would backfire. The gun, it was built to backfire. And they couldn't figure out why their cerebral palsy child didn't like playing with it. And so I told him, I said, well, I can probably explain that to you. One of the side effects of cerebral palsy, in my case specifically, I have, and other people with cerebral palsy do have,
I can edit this part out, Roger,
okay,
where
good.
you lose your mind and can't remember the rest of your sentence. Happens to me all the time now, see, so I'm good at that.
That's good. I have an exaggerated startle reflex. And what that means, if you go bang, I jump. I jump even if I know you're going to say bang. Okay? So when you give a child a car that arbitrarily backfires, even though that's what it's supposed to do, the noise hits their startle reflex and it makes them jump. And then it's no fun.
I'm just thinking, though, you would be fun at parties, Roger.
I am fun. I'll tell you where I'm fun. Every disabled child would love to go to the circus, right? wrong.
Well, sure.
I despise the circus because there's nothing but loud noise.
Cannons going off. And everything.
Cannons going off and firecrackers going off, and I am miserable at the circus.
Roger.
So the idea that all crippled children need to go to the circus is wrong.
And that's the first thing they do is load them up on a bus and take them to the circus.
Yeah, because they think everybody that. And many of them, now, if you don't have the star reflex problem, you probably do enjoy the circus. But I don't enjoy the circus. Never did enjoy the circus. It was, and I don't enjoy going to sports events where they have cannons,
sure,
and they have buzzers, and they have loud things that go off during the game.
You're gonna love golf.
Probably.
And they got little pathways so your chair won't get stuck.
Well, for many years,
my director said, "Shame on you."
Yeah.
What is wrong with her?
For many years, I went to the Texas Tech football games. Okay.
Yeah.
And for many years, they had cannons that they fired every time they scored a touchdown. Fortunately, I was there early enough before we got a good coach, and it only went off once a season. There was no real big deal.
Oh, man.
But
there you are, Tech fans.
As we got better and scored more, I quit going because it was way too noisy.
Roger, you're not going to believe it, because I think you and I have a tendency to have more and more fun. In fact, it's been pointed out we're having too much fun. But I just want to tell you that this is kind of a relaxed in-between podcast for us here. Let's point this out. In the past, the listeners to this podcast, and now the viewers of this YouTube channel that you have now, they have been remarkable. You have
Absolutely.
said, "Hey, folks, we need some help." You were listening to this show here, this Roger Dykes Just Saying, you're hearing this stuff. It's real, and they're making decisions on certain things right now, and it would really be cool if they could hear from many of you. They did it. They called their lawmakers, and they sent the word in. And when they did that, you have hard evidence that it made a difference.
Yes.
And we're just humbled by
absolutely.
And the message this time is, don't run off, folks. We really love y'all.
Yes.
And stay here, because what is going to happen it's impossible to predict, but in a few days or a few weeks' time, what is going to happen is the legislatures will begin making decisions again, making decisions on implementing certain ways of doing things that were put together in the Nixon administration that need to be relooked at and rechanged, because it just doesn't work like it's supposed to. Yet, if you don't work it like it's supposed to, they'll kick you off the program.
Yes.
I mean, yes. And that is as complicated as it sounds, and more.
And it's very one-sided. But I can assure you. Let me for our listeners, let me explain to you this way. Do you know how the IRS works regarding your tax refund? It gets sent when they feel like it. But when your taxes are due, they don't say, well, just send it in the next month or two. They start adding on penalties if you don't get it in on time.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing is true with disability. They don't get in a hurry to fix things, but when they require things of us, paperwork and so forth, it has to be in on a deadline date or things bad things begin to happen. So
there you go.
That's just typical government. I mean, that's the way government is, and I suppose it always will be. I'm hoping.
And yet, I know you are thankful.
Oh, absolutely. I am hoping to get an audience in the next few weeks, months, whatever, with some legislators regarding getting some more money put into this particular program, hopefully so we can bring up the salary level, the cap at least, up to a level
for the caregivers.
That's compensatory to what they can make on the outside.
Right. Because it's just getting ridiculous. And the caregivers have to be taken care of.
Right, absolutely. And we're working toward that end. But as with everything else, there's other things that get in the way. The COVID got in the way.
Oh boy, did it ever.
Right now we're dealing with a war that we're not involved with directly, but we're involved with indirectly, and that's got everybody's attention. Yes. And when there's a worldwide situation that develops, it takes the attention off local problems.
Roger, it is always a pleasure to visit with you. And today, that's what we wanted to do. We just wanted to visit. That's why I've been saving back the jackalope, because I knew a day like today would come and we would need the jackalope.
You never know when you're going to need a good jackalope. That's been my motto forever.
Roger Dykes Just Sayin, folks.
In fact, I even had business cards printed up. It said, "Have jackalope will travel."
I'll get you some shots of this. We can get you some camera-ready art.
That would be great, because I work with a guy that uses that kind of stuff and creates stuff. So I'll ship it over to him and see what he can do with it.
I wonder who he's talking about. Roger, thank you. Love you later, brother.
All right, talk to you later. Thank you. And we appreciate everybody watching, and hopefully they'll be back next time and see us on the YouTube channel.
You've been listening to Roger Dykes Just Sayin. If you'd like to get a message to Roger, his Facebook account is listed as Roger Dykes. Become a friend, or you can send your questions and comments to rogerdykes51@gmail.com. That's ROGERDYKES51@gmail.com. Our podcast reveals a new episode every 3 weeks. Join us next time for our next episode of Roger Dykes Just Sayin. I'm Michael Shawn. On behalf of Roger Dykes, thanks for listening.